Hey, what's going on everybody? It's Joseph here. Welcome back to another whiteboard marketing tutorial. In today's video, I am super excited to showcase a live breakdown of a recent campaign that I ran on Facebook and Instagram with the purpose of promoting a local event here in my hometown that I was actually hosting myself, which, spoiler alert, ended up getting actually postponed due to the entire domestic and global pandemic. But that's not to say the events and the efforts that went into gauging local interest for this event weren't successful. In fact, the success of these efforts, which I want to highlight now in brevity just so that we're all on the same page here, were a grand total of 176 leads that were curated over the time frame of roughly half a day. And I'll explain why the active publicity of these ad sets was so limited in just a second. But I just want you to know that my initial investment was about $5.62, and I'll throw up the screenshots here just so that we're on the same page here with clarity. But this was the grand total. This wasn't $5 per lead. This was actually $5.62 for all of these leads. And I just want to state that this is something that I've been doing a lot recently, especially with a lot of the coaches that I've been working with. A lot of them have been trying to actively make the transition from these in-person masterminds that they would often host locally, which have obviously been severely limited the capabilities of hosting them due to the obvious social restrictions that have been imposed globally. But they've been trying to create some more virtual, geographical local events. And, I've been doing a lot of experimentation with my own ad sets for something obviously that I was going to be hosting before the entire pandemic, but just to see what works and what doesn't. And I want to break down my findings this entire campaign really into three particular segments, modules, if you will. And I like to call them the 3 C's for clarity's sake. Number one, we're going to talk about content, and I'll talk about the creatives, what I did. There's really 5 things I want to highlight there. Number two, we're going to talk about the actual campaign. So inside the Facebook Ads Manager, what did I actually optimize for? What were my thoughts going into this? And finally, we're going to conclude by talking about the numbers. We'll talk about the actual conversions. And I want to highlight here what exactly I ended up doing with these leads, even though I ended up postponing the event. And I'll preface this discussion by saying that if you want to watch the full duration of the ad that I actually filmed, my videographer and I went to a location and we actually filmed that at a very familiar spot in my hometown. I'll leave a link below this video so that you can check that out. I just want to keep this information very, very concentrated. It's about 1 minute and 30 seconds, so I didn't want to bore you with that. But you can take a look at that at your own convenience in the description below. That being said, and without further ado, let's get started. So let's go ahead and kick off our discussion by talking about C number 1, and that's going to be content. Now, like I mentioned previously, before the pandemic crashed the party, I had everything planned out. I had the venue reserved. I actually had the subject matter all rehearsed, what I wanted to discuss, and it was actually going to be exclusively for local businesses on the subject matter of social media branding and marketing, with a focus on those in the e-commerce sphere, or at least making that transition to digital. And I knew I wanted to film at a location that 90% of people in my local area knew by sight. And I actually made a great decision in doing so because a lot of the comments were people saying, oh, I recognize that place. I was there 2 days ago. And that created resonance. Next, we have the actual video structure. And this is something that I've been refining really over the course of the past year or so. And this is a formula that I found works really, really well for any sort of local-based targeting with a video ad. So this was 4:5 ratio on Facebook and Instagram. There's essentially 3 technical components. I had the title right here of my city in bold, so I knew people would see it. They would immediately establish relevance or acknowledgement. You're acknowledging a particular area. A lot of people will have this in the actual copy, but of course the first thing that catches people's eyes is always the visuals. I also knew that a lot of people at the time weren't socially distancing, and so I wanted subtitles so that people could read it even if the audio was off. So next in the script, we have the flash roll. And the flash roll in sales and copywriting is a concept, usually 1 or 2 sentences that are delivered in such a way that they showcase your knowledge or your expertise in a particular industry or subject matter, or in this case, a local area. And I use particular lingo that only my area would know or at least be familiar with. So that was something that I also said in the video, and this is in the order that I ended up delivering. So next on our list, we have inverse intention. And this is where you state what you're not here to do. The obvious, the elephant in the room. Hey, I'm not here to sell to you. I'm not here to pitch to you. Especially with the audience that it was targeting, which were business owners, individuals interested in social media marketing, branding, e-commerce, advertising, I knew that I didn't want to come off too salesy. I feel personally that there's a stereotype out there with younger guys where you hear their voice on the phone, you see them in some sort of an ad formatted video, you assume that there's some sort of a hidden agenda behind what they're doing, and I wanted to break that generalization because when you try to take and that's obvious that you're trying to get something from them, you honestly repel people. I think the worst thing that you can do, especially when you're trying to curate leads or clients or prospects, is to interact with them with a net mentality, trying to catch them all as they are, versus casting in line with a hook at the end, giving them some sort of value first. So I just wanted to be clear with my intention. That being said, that leads me to purpose. And this is essentially where I stated, what was I doing on your screen? What was the purpose of this video? And I think I said verbatim, hey, I'm here to just gauge interest for this event. And that led me to my call to action, CTA, where my engagement strategy was to get people to comment below this video. And my assumption was I'd probably get 20, 30 videos, 30 people interested in this event. And again, that was my call to action. I would reach out to them via Facebook Messenger or on Instagram, and I would give them a little bit more details to start building that attendance. Now, with the creatives in mind, let's go ahead and move our discussion to C number 2, and that is the campaign. Now, my objective, in case you're wondering, inside Facebook Ads Manager was engagement, and I'll talk about why in just a second I didn't create a social proof post first and then run that as an ad versus doing A/B splits testing completely from scratch. But let's talk about some of the demographics of the way I narrowed my audience. So I did a 10 mile, I think it was 10 to 15 miles around my particular area, which ended up being, I think, roughly 30,000 people or so. And I ended up limiting them by age by 21 plus. I had two different ad sets here, A and B, both the same video. The creatives were structured exactly the same. This one I kept very, very broad. So I literally think it was a copy and paste of what I initially drafted out here. And then this one was hyper-targeted based on interest. So we have business owners, again, individuals interested in social media marketing. I think there's probably a list of about 10 different interests or so for this particular ad. Something that I'll do commonly with a lot of coaches is we'll create a post in their Facebook page, we'll have their community engage with it, and then we'll run that as an ad with all that social proof behind it. It just makes it look a little bit more enticing. The herd mentality, we as humans are more inclined because of the societal affirmation from others to engage with a post because it has 500 likes on it versus being the first to like it ourselves. It's kind of that bold action that people tend not to take. So I didn't do that simply because there wasn't really much of an active community on my Facebook page. I don't post there even though there is a following there. It's not super active. That's not my focus at this time. So I decided just to start from scratch inside the Ads Manager. Let's talk about our third C, and that is conversions. Now, I initially thought I was going to run these ads for a couple of days, considering that first untargeted broad ad set had a reach of about 30,000 people. And I thought this was going to take a while to play out. And I'd actually set both of them, including the broad one that I referenced earlier and the hyper-targeted one, to spend about $5 a day. And again, like we addressed initially, we ended up spending $5.62, turning them off after about half a day. The reach for both of them being about 1,000 impressions, give or take. And 78% of people ended up watching the video. Again, it was a variety. Some watched it 25%, some watched it all the way through. But regardless, there were a total of 300 engagement actions, likes, comments, shares, 176 of those being people that actually, quote, interested comments. Some of them were super simple. Some of them, actually expressed a little bit more detail, wanted to learn more. And what I've actually done is I've compiled these people into a list. I've reached out to every single person, and I've created a list of people that I'm going to get in contact with when this pandemic blows over, and I'm able to host this event in person, or maybe if it's going to take a little bit longer than usual, create some sort of a virtual event. So that about concludes this video. I just wanted to show you truly how effective this system can be if you can apply it properly. You can have the very best ads expert in the world working for you, but if there's not a well thought out structure, there's not great creatives or an objective behind what you're doing, it's going to be wasted effort. And I know you're thinking these 176 people, what was the purpose of collecting them in the first place? Well, again, these are really just seeds waiting to be harvested in the form of attending an in-person event, hopefully hosted by me in the near future, or at least a virtual alternative if it's going to take longer to achieve that. So that being said, on that note, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this content, please be sure to leave a like down below, and also consider subscribing to the Joseph Todd Whiteboard Marketing YouTube channel for future content like this every single week. Thanks guys for watching, and as always, we'll catch you next time. Take care.